Hello and welcome to Creating a Digital Marketing Plan. Now, before we get into digital planning, it's important to really concentrate on the marketing process and remember what the role of marketing is all about. Now, here we can see a diagram which talks that in order to capture value from your customers, you really do need to understand the marketplace and customer needs and wants. If you understand the marketplace and your organization is market oriented, then you can begin to create value for your customers and build customer relationships, which is built on a customer driven marketing strategy. Now, online marketing is exactly the same process. Remember too that any marketing planning or online marketing planning that you do needs to fit in with the strategy hierarchy. And what do I mean by that? Well, as you can see, you have your corporate strategy, your strategic business unit strategy, and down at the functional level is your marketing strategy. Now remember that your online marketing strategy needs to fit in with your overall marketing strategy, and this needs to fit in with your strategic business unit and your corporate strategy. The marketing planning process is important. This is how it works in a traditional setting, and many of you will be familiar with the 7 stages of the marketing planning process that begin with analysing the current, external and internal environment, researching customers, deciding what your segments are going to be, setting your marketing plan, thinking through your marketing strategies, creating your marketing mix strategies, and then thinking about how you're going to measure them. And of course, this marketing planning process is all built on your mission statement, built on your organisational objectives, and also your strategic business unit objectives. Now, SOSTAC is the digital marketing planning equivalent. You don't have to use SOSTAC for your digital marketing plan, but it is a good framework to use. And what I'd like to do in this lecture is highlight the different components of SOSTAC and talk about them very briefly. In later lectures, we'll have the opportunity to expand on these areas to help you build your digital marketing plan. As we can see with SOSTAC, it begins with situation analysis, and this is really your audit component in helping to build the digital audit to assess what the strengths and the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats are that come from the internal and the external environment. Next, you'll be thinking through what your digital marketing objectives are. Remember, they're based on organisational objectives also. Thirdly, it's how are you going to get there? And this is your online marketing strategy. So areas that we'll be exploring here will be segmentation, targeting and positioning, a lot of work on personas. You'll also be thinking through your online value proposition, okay? These are very important parts of strategy. The tactics are how exactly do we get there? This is the nitty-gritty, and this is where we're expecting to see your marketing mix strategies based on the 4 Ps or based on the 7 Ps. Of course, we also need actions and control, and actions are really about, well, how's it going to happen? Who's going to do it? What's the time frame? Who are you going to use? How much is it going to cost? And how long is it going to take? Control is very much about evaluating the success of your campaigns, putting in contingencies and making sure that you actually have those measurement processes in there for ongoing campaigns. Let's just touch on these just a little bit as we work our way through the lecture. Digital marketing planning is 5 essential components, and I would like you to follow this concept as you create your own digital plan. You'll have the audit, your objectives, your marketing strategy, your marketing mix tactics, action and control. This will all be very familiar to you from traditional marketing, and it's going to be the same with your online marketing plan. Let's begin with that first stage that I talked about, and this is creating your digital audit. You're going to need to think through what's affecting your organisation from a macro point of view, which is what we refer to as the external environment. Also, as well, we're going to be asking you to think through from a micro point of view, such as your industry, your competitors, your customers and markets, but also internally as well, thinking about your organisation itself and its strengths and weaknesses to be able to cope with digital strategy. That marketing audit is really, really important because it will give you the vital analysis to be able to determine problem areas and opportunities, and this will drive your marketing strategy. Your audit will in fact give you the answers as to how you implement your online marketing mix and the key actions that you should be investing in long term. A macro tool for your audit is one that you're going to be very familiar with. This is PEST, also known as PESTLE, with legal and environmental, also known as SLEPT, also known as STEEPLE. Whatever acronym you use, this tool does exactly the same thing. You are going to be assessing the macro environment politically, economically, socioculturally, technologically, legal and environmentally from a digital perspective. So let me give you an example on this. Politically, you might be assessing what government intervention there might be in terms of future adoption and control of the internet. The government has enormous powers to bring in regulation around spam, privacy laws, advertising, for example. Economic is going to be looking at spending patterns and consumer spending patterns and general economic indicators such as a recession to actually give you an idea of how much people are able to spend in this current environment. Sociocultural will look at areas such as diversity in digital communities, attitudes and opinions to digital, and also the influence of the internet. Another good macro tool to assess the environment, and we are going to be going into this later, so this is just a light touch, is Porter's 5 Forces. Now, Porter's 5 Forces was originally developed to assess the attractiveness of different industries. What we're interested in here is you analysing how competitive your environment is from a digital perspective. And when I mean your environment, I mean your industry. So you could do a Porter's 5 Forces on wine. It might be building construction, for example. Just depending on your industry, it might be education. You might decide to narrow it down to TAFE education or university education. But nonetheless, a Porter's 5 Forces is a useful tool. We're also going to be looking at the micro environment, and these are really your suppliers, thinking about your competitors, your customers, and any marketing intermediaries. Company is also in micro. It doesn't really matter whether company is micro or whether it's internal. The fact is, it still has to be analysed as to whether all of these elements, and in particular your company, has the ability to be able to cope with digital strategy on an ongoing basis. An important part of the marketing plan for SOSTAC, the O, is objectives, and you're going to need to think through about how you create digital objectives that are smart and help to drive strategy through the marketing plan. Marketing strategy is going to be based on a variety of things. You might decide on growth strategy using a traditional ANSOF matrix. We'll touch on this later. And another key part of strategy is actually segmentation, targeting and positioning. Part of your marketing plan is creating what we call personas. Okay, and that's part of segmentation, targeting and positioning. You will need to decide as part of your strategy which segments to target and why. Another key part of strategy is the online value proposition. Again, We will touch on this later, but it's really just to tell you that I want you to be thinking about your online value proposition because it really communicates your differential advantage and your positioning. And there are several things that you're going to need to do to ascertain whether your OVP is credible and robust or whether it needs work. A lot of strategic decisions can be based around the OVP once it's developed, such as the quality of the online customer experience. Marketing mix tactics will be covered in later lectures, and many of you will be familiar with the 7 Ps and the 4 Ps. Suffice to say that the traditional base of the 7 Ps still applies, but in this instance, you're going to be adapting it to a digital environment. Marketing mix tactics is going to focus on all of those activities from the marketing mix and also a lot of your online campaign tools that you're going to be using from a promotional element. Actions are an important part of the plan, and whether it be digital or traditional. Later lectures will look in actions in real detail, and we'll think about how you build Gantt charts with activities, thinking about the time frame for your plan, whose responsibility it is to actually implement some of these areas, how you might go about measuring them, and the budget that you would like to allocate for your plan. And the last part of the marketing plan that we will cover through this module is measurement and control. This will be covered in later lectures and will explore areas such as social media management and monitoring tools. The last part of a marketing plan is measurement and control. This will be covered in later lectures and will explore areas such as social media management and monitoring tools, as well as web analytics. Thank you.